All right, guys. Welcome to Cake. And as always, it's Wednesday, which is why we're meeting up. And Cake is a totally donation-based weekly workshop and meeting. And our goal is to actually impart some really practical business tips that'll help you to improve and immediately get results. And less kind of higher up abstract thinking, more down and dirty, cheap, scrappy tactics that you can use. And today especially we're going to be covering a lot of just resources that we use during the course of running our business. And specifically we're calling it our weapons of choice. So just launching right into it, the first thing I want to talk about is sort of what we choose these resources for. And just to give you an idea, it's everything ranging from Google Apps to Dropbox to email clients, how to run your finances, just having a bank account, for example. Where to get your supplies from, Amazon, Craigslist, the Goodwill bins if you're here in Portland, other things like that. And really what ties them all together is a few overarching themes to them. So the ability to have cloud sharing or cloud storage is one of the really big ones. That ends up being just super important when you're trying to collaborate on anything, not only within your organization, but also just to really quickly share things outside of your organization. Ease of use, just in general, any systems that are too complicated or have too many features or just don't work quite like you expect them to, especially like as soon as you bring in even another person to work with, like your first employee or your first teammate, they just end up creating so much contamination of whatever it is that you're working on. So being easy to use ends up being really critical for us. Integration, once you have these easy to use things that are storing data on the cloud so that you can access it from anywhere, you want to make sure they work well together and that you can actually tie them in so you don't just kind of have these separate empires that you're building up all over the place. Being free or cheap, it's Cake, so we always try to keep things on the scrappy side. Being stable, and this is one that's not immediately obvious, but making sure that the tools that you do go with are going to stick around for a while. They're not just companies that have popped up in the last few months that are maybe going to completely disappear out from under you. Back when I was working a little more on the tech side of things, I had that for a few different programs that I was using to help my productivity, which was great for like the first year. And then they went bankrupt or didn't get enough investors for their Series A funding and just kind of went under. So making sure that you think it's going to stick around for a while. Customization ends up being also important to us, and this is pretty much in order of importance too, going down, with cloud sharing being the most important and kind of customization towards the lower end. But having software that you can actually mold around how you want to run your organization ends up being really good. And I guess just kind of, I've studied UI design a little bit, and one of my beliefs on that is that customization through being really general purpose is better than customization through really intense customization screens where you can kind of define all of your styles. Just having really generalized controls, like Google Docs is a really good example of something that's very customizable, and that's just because you can create documents and store them in folders and collaborate or share on them, and it's just a really simple to use system, which makes it customizable as a result. And then kind of separate from that, but in the same area of why we choose things, is just things that are needed for little one-of-a-kind specific little niches that we have. So a good example of that one would be, what's the scheduler one called? Doodle? Yeah, Doodle. Which is just a really quick, easy-to-use online tool for scheduling a meeting or an appointment or a conference call or something like that with people in your organization or just a group of clients. And it just lets everyone really quickly say which times they're available for things and tells you what appointment time will work the best. And that's just such a small need and so specific that we use just a specific app only for that, and we don't worry too much about it tying into other things or having some kind of greater purpose. So we'll talk a little bit about specific uses for these two and ways that we use them that are kind of clever. But first I wanted to, since we didn't get this on the record the last time that we went through the topic, go through just the kind of an entire list of things, which we just reviewed now, almost, 6 months, 8 months later or something like that, from when we first made it. And this is still exactly what we're using for almost all of the things that we had listed, which is great. So once again, as far as being stable, these ones have definitely proven so for us. So basic communication, and it all kind of builds up from there, but phone and email. And that'll fill in all the gaps where the other systems leave behind as well. But sometimes there's no replacement just for a quick phone call or shooting off a quick email to someone. For collaboration and organization, Dropbox is great for sharing large files. You have free file sharing for up to 2 gigabytes to start out. Google Apps, especially Google Apps for Business, is really great too. The basic ones are awesome. You just have documents, calendars, email like Gmail, which is great for an organization. And then you can add on other apps from there. It's actually a really robust system. But we use that for a long time as sort of the heart of where we store a lot of our information. Also, they have a free setting for that too. Evernote is great. That's kind of like your exobrain is how they describe it. Pretty much just not forgetting anything and having a central place to store it. And so basically what they do is they have a cloud storage set up, and then just different things that feed into that. So you hook it up to your web browser, to your computer, to your phone, and then you can just add new notes from anywhere. And the notes can be voice notes or photographs or text notes, and then you can access them from the cloud and pull them down from anywhere. Or you can just log on to a computer with internet access and sign into your account and get them from there. But that ends up being amazing for things like business cards now. I don't actually take business cards from people. I just grab them and take a photo of it with my phone and hand it back, and then store it in my Evernote business cards file. Getting things to do, having a project management system. Basecamp is generally considered one of the best just project managers out there. There's a few different options too. Do.com has some. They were previously what we recommended for being Minimoon. And we're actually working on our own project management just because we've had trouble finding something that totally fits our needs. And that we call our Helm, which we'll be releasing at some point. But basically the idea behind that is actual business automation software that is able to assign out tasks and projects on a regular basis, so that once you figure out how to automate your whole business, you can just kind of make sure it's running itself. Doodle, like I mentioned earlier, really easy group scheduling. Skype is great for face-to-face conversations with desktop sharing as well. And just really nice chat too. I actually find myself logging into Skype just to chat with other business friends as well, much more than I thought I would. And then Google Hangouts, kind of like Skype, but it has Google Docs integration, and it works with large groups of people, I think up to about 10 people as well for the Google Hangouts. So really nice if you need to have kind of a video chat conference call. And with the Google Docs integration, if you're already using that, that's really nice. So you can kind of tell how all of these are working. It's all file sharing and communication, basically, and it's all different types of file sharing. So Dropbox is like your really big files, things you need to share that are above email size. Google Apps is documents that you just want to make on the fly and collaborate with, spreadsheets that you want to store information on. And the spreadsheets, especially in Google Docs, just a little word on those, end up being so useful. As just the spreadsheets are useful, but instead of storing your information in Excel when you're first getting started with sales management, you can store all of your clients in there and manage it that way. You can store business contacts, you can store lists of prices for different supplies, so you can figure out which is the cheapest. And there are whole programs and applications out there that'll do all of this for you in a much more seamless way. But starting with Google Docs just kind of lets you know where your problem points are and where your systems actually do get too complex for it. And in the meantime, it is really good at compiling all of that info. Website management. Putting together a website with WordPress and hosting it through DreamHost or iPage or Bluehost. You can just look up cheap domain hosting. And then having a blog attached to WordPress is really easy. So that's a recommendation, really, is get WordPress, buy a domain through someone like Namecheap. We don't recommend GoDaddy. And then getting something like DreamHost to host it, and then buying a theme through something like ThemeForest. And those are kind of the four basic ways to set up a WordPress site, just quick and easy. And there's a whole cake on how to get your WordPress up and running if you want to go back and check that out. Social media. There are lots of tools out there to manage your social media, and the ones that we actually find really useful and really use consistently are pretty few. Facebook, just using the site itself, especially now that they allow pre-scheduling of posts, just seems to be the best thing to do with that one. Hootsuite is a Twitter and general social media manager, and you can manage lots of accounts from there and schedule posts and see what's going on. Hootsuite is pretty much considered, I think, the best Twitter especially organizational tool out there. TweetDeck is also great for looking up things like real-time keyword triggers, just accessing a lot of Twitter information that's out there. And Buffer app is what lets you load up the content to be shared. And all of these, so Buffer app is an alternate to Hootsuite as well, although Hootsuite is the one that we use. And that should pretty much get you going with your social media. And if you want actual tactics on how to go through all of that and when to post and how often, what to post up, things like that, I'd go back and watch our social media cake, and that'll give you a good sense of that one. Monitoring things, just staying on top of your industry and knowing what's going on ends up being really important. So if you have trade magazines, things like that, those are always great to get. But there's other ways too. Google Alerts, if you just Google Alerts, you'll come up with it. And that's really simple. It just basically sends you an email when new keyword or when new results come up for certain keywords. So I have one for custom treasure hunts from my first business down in Santa Barbara that still occasionally emails me about pirate treasure hunts that different businesses are putting on when it pops up on the search pages. Twilert, kind of the same thing, but for Twitter. And Google Reader, I really strongly recommend that you find what industry blogs are out there and sort of get involved in the blogosphere. Even just reading them and staying on top of them is great, but if you can get your hands dirty and really get in and start blogging too, use that WordPress part of the blog, or even go on Blogger is another alternative to WordPress, super easy to get up and running, but getting that conversation going with other people doing what you're doing ends up being really important. And has been invaluable here at Cake, having actual people to talk to business about and to share what's going on in our lives, and just different business tactics has been an incredible resource. And Google Reader is a great way to actually meet those people and know what's going on in their worlds. Advertising, when you actually want to get the word out there for advertisement, and we don't recommend really paying for ads too much. Google AdWords, you can always get a free $100 credit towards Google AdWords. It's out there so many, but I'm pretty sure if you just type in Google AdWords $100 into Google, you'll also find it. That's a great place to start experimenting around. We find that AdWords, especially for testing, end up being really useful. Not as much necessarily for the use of getting people to click on them and getting paid customers coming in, although lots of websites make their business doing that too. But getting results and finding out what people are interested in is great. Craigslist, it's free. Test on Craigslist because it's free, and you can be creative, and at the very least, by putting something up on Craigslist, you lose nothing except a little bit of time that you took to post it. Community boards, depends on your business. We have not had too much luck with posting things up around in public, but they also are free, and for things like events, those are really good options. For things like businesses or getting people in your door, I think the results that you get back from those are minimal unless you're doing some really creative stuff. Merc Perks here in Portland is a great local one for advertising. We talk about them a lot, but they basically do kind of a Groupon type deal where they sell your products at half off, but then you get the full value of your product in advertising dollars with them. So in our case, we sell floats for $25 and get $50 worth of advertising credit, which we use to take out giant ads like our Fuck Gravity ad that took up a full page in the Mercury, which we'd never pay cash for, but are happy to promote and get floats in exchange for. And then Living Social, Groupon, Google Offers. We have various cakes on talking about how to use those more effectively. But basically what to know with those is negotiate up to around 70%, as close as you can get to that. And shop around when you're planning on running a daily deal. Contact all of them and find out who can give you the best offers and terms. And make sure you're very clear about launch date and anything else you need to be particular about, because they will just tell you things and completely drop the ball and launch randomly and not inform you. So staying on top of them is really important. And then Supportland is another good one that we found. It's about $50 a month. We haven't used them personally, but we've talked to businesses who have. And basically that's a discount card service that's Portland specific that businesses can sign into, and then they just get listed as part of a general Supportland community. Financial stuff, some of the big scary things. A bank account. Just having a bank account ends up being really important, totally separate from your personal finances, and we recommend using a credit union for that. And that's important for a lot of reasons. Limiting your liability, just having separate finances to keep track of. Square, as far as payment processing, ends up being really great, free to order, and they only charge 2.75% on all transactions. That's what most food carts in Portland use. Definitely if you're going to be away from a good power source, you can use it on an iPad or iPhone, and it ends up being really great for that. PayPal Merchant Services for easy web payments, 2.9% plus 30 cents per transaction. So not the best rates, but really quick and easy to get started with. And if you do want to go through the hassle of figuring out the best kind of merchant service for you, there's a lot out there to choose from. So you can always find better rates depending on the little area you're in. These are just some general recommendations. Mint.com is popular for personal finance tracking. Expensify is great for expense tracking and reporting. And that's pretty much the financial things that we use, other than we use QuickBooks to actually keep all of our books. And when you get a good bookkeeper, that's probably what they'll use. QuickBooks is mostly ubiquitous as the system that people use. Publishing materials. So when you actually want to get things out there, on the non-physical publishing side, we have MailChimp, which is just really great email sending. They make sure that your email gets past spam filters. They make sure that your open rate is counted, and they give you really easy statistics on that. Just much better than sending it out from your regular email, and it'll actually hit people's inboxes as opposed to getting filtered out for those large groups. GIMP for design is a great open source image editor. It's an alternative to Photoshop. And if you have Photoshop, we end up using that just a ton for getting all of our publishing stuff ready. Just actual graphic design is a really important part of business. But GIMP is great, GIMP, and totally free graphic design editor. For actual printing, we go through PS Print for a lot of our cheap printing. They're kind of a Vistaprint alternative, and they do slightly higher quality, in my opinion. Moo cards are what a lot of people I know use for business cards, especially if you have, if you're a graphic artist or have something that you want to show off of a bunch of different varieties. They can change the image on the back of all of your business cards. You can have as many images as you want spanning the full run of your cards, which is great for showing off different things. That's pretty much it. And then when we want to get supplies printed, we just go to a good local printer. We've used different ones for different things. Some we order online, but mostly we try to buy local to cut down on shipping and things like that. And lots of times Office Depot just ends up being one of the better options. And the quality that I've gotten from the Office Depot here in Portland has been really good. And they've been able to do rush jobs without charging the extra. Actually, really can't speak highly enough of Office Depot over on Grand or MLK here. When you want supplies, one thing we haven't regretted buying at all is our Amazon Prime membership, which is just $75 a year and gives you free 2-day shipping and really cheap 1-day shipping, which is just great for getting supplies here quickly. And it even has supplies by people who aren't part of Amazon. Just some of their associated sellers also sell with Amazon Prime enabled. Craigslist, again, really cheap, free stuff, and the best tips we have on Craigslist are monitoring it, and when you want something, just you can actually set custom Craigslist alerts too, part of that other monitoring system, to pop up when new items are released, and you can keep on track of whatever it is you're looking for, a filing cabinet, for example. IKEA, thinking like you're still in college is how we recommended that one. The Goodwill bins, great for things you can buy by the pound. We especially find fabrics or decorative small little trinkets to put around. Like if you have a really good base already for your room or for whatever it is that you're setting up, like an expo booth, going to the bins and kind of choosing odd little trinkets to accessorize it works really well. And that's it. That's kind of the full rundown on most of the systems we could think of that we use to run things at Float On and that we see other people running small businesses around Portland with. And with that should cover most of your needs. And like I said, there are little niche things that you'll always find to come up. And if one of these isn't general enough, like if you can't take care of it over phone or email or sharing files via Dropbox, there's always other things. I mean, maybe it's a physical USB hard drive. Maybe there's some weird person who's programmed exactly what you want for your industry already out there. And I guess I just wanted to end this cake by talking about a little bit about how we actually use some of these things and what scenarios we find ourselves in where they're necessary. So Dropbox, in addition to letting you store files, also lets you just create custom sharing with them, basically. And you can create a public URL or a public link over to a file, which lets us do things like put up our lab water testing results for people to see within our organization. But then when someone else wants access to them, we can give them that link, and it just displays it directly as a web page for them. We don't even have to dig through our files to attach it or anything like that. Using Google Voice to do split testing. So you can actually set up different voicemails with Google Voice and monitor how many people are actually calling in and leaving voicemails and things like that. It gives you a little more metrics that you can use, in addition to just being a really easy to set up voicemail system. Like I said, someone handing you a business card, for me it's as simple as taking photos through Evernote and having that shared with all of my devices. And then if I lose anything, if I even lose my phone, it's still shared directly with whatever new phone I get. Yep, that's a good one. A graphic designer wants to access all versions of your logo. Again, Dropbox ends up being really useful for that. One of your internal projects wants to set up their own blog, like Cake, for example. For that, we just set up a really quick WordPress site, set up the blog. We wanted to get email mailing list integration going, so we set up a MailChimp account and put a little sign-up form to MailChimp going from our Cake website. Yeah, all of them just go together really well. You want to have a little conference call about someone so that you can sign them up for sponsoring a conference like we just did for the Float conference that we put on. So you have a little conversation over Skype, email over an invoice that you design with the GIMP open source editor. They want to pay you money, so you have a PayPal account or you have Square set up and they can pay you over that. And then you want to keep track of everything that they did and who's paid you so far. So you have a Google spreadsheet set up to actually track all of their information and all of their accounts. So there's a little rundown of how we actually get things done without going completely mad. And this is also a really boiled down list. It's taken us a long time to figure out the systems that end up being useful and other systems we've adopted and have just kind of fallen by the wayside as a result of not using them too much. Did we have any questions from the audience at all? Or?
You want to mention the resources page on the site?
Oh yeah, and if you wanted to find all of these, we've listed them up just on the Cake website. So if you go to cakepdx.com/resources, you'll find them, let's see, is that true? cakepdx.com. Just go to cakepdx.com and go to the resources link on the left-hand side. The URL is not as clean as I thought it was. And you'll also find this worksheet, which you can print out that has the same resources, and a little kind of prep worksheet as well for different scenarios you might run into and just kind of getting you to think through them and think about what tools you might need at your disposal once you get set up. So that's it. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll be coming back in a little bit for the workshop, although not broadcast live. And again,